Welcome to Thoughtful Planning, the place where real conversation, expert insight, and a touch of humor meet to turn our end-of-life uncertainties into self-assurance. I'm your co-host Santiago, a history buff and a big kid at heart.
And I'm Honey, your guide through the intricate dance of planning with care and a whole lot of warmth. Every week, we're here to turn those intimidating "are we ready" moments into confident "everything is under control" moments. Today's journey is one you won't want to miss. Hi, welcome to Thoughtful Planning. I'm Honey.
And I'm Santiago. So before we begin, please note that we're not doctors, we're not legal professionals. The information shared in this episode is for educational purposes only and should not be considered legal or medical advice. Always consult with qualified professionals so your decisions related for your health and end-of-life planning are yours and yours alone.
All right, so one of the key topics that I covered in the doula class, or that I learned, is about advanced care directives. These are essential tools for communicating your healthcare wishes and ensuring that your voice is heard, even if you're not able to speak for yourself. And each state might have a different name for their healthcare directive, such as a living will or directive to physicians, etc. So one thing to note is that I actually always thought that these were documents that actually had to be done by a lawyer. But what I did learn was that you can go onto your state's website and you can find these forms available, and it gives instructions for how to use them. Of course, if you have any questions whatsoever, you should always seek the advice of an attorney. And on actually the Texas website, they have a link for low-cost attorneys. And we'll be sharing our resources that we've learned in our show notes so that you can find them. But I just wanted to share that as well.
Yeah, that's always helpful, especially with the way prices and everything are right now. So let's start with our essential question. So what steps can we take to ensure that our healthcare decisions are honored, especially during critical moments when we might not be able to make them ourselves?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's actually scary if I were to get into an accident and not be able to talk or walk.
You might even be conscious. You could be.
You need to know what I want. So
Yep.
That's the whole point of what we're talking about today. And actually, according to a 2017 article from the National Library of Medicine, there's only 1 in 3 adults in the U.S. have completed any type of advanced directive before they're in need of one. So these are legal documents that allow you to convey your decisions about end-of-life care ahead of time. They provide a clear way to communicate your wishes to your family, your friends, and your healthcare professionals, helping to avoid confusion later on. And they should actually be completed by anyone age 18 and up.
That's kind of scary because we've talked about that in some of our shows where, we had a friend of ours, April, whose son got ill, and all of a sudden he's 18 and now he had to sign the documents and do everything himself. So that's it's a scary part when you're a parent, when
Right.
your child is hurt.
And he was still in high school.
Yeah, and you got an 18-year-old in high school, and you're like, holy smokes, what do I do?
Right.
So in Texas, we're going to share the healthcare documents available in English and in Spanish, and we're going to put those in the show notes. So let's go over them one by one. Honey, can you start with the directive to physicians or family or surrogates?
Sure. So this form, it's often called a living will. It's designed to communicate your wishes about medical treatment in situations where you cannot make your preferences known due to illness or injury. And then in this document, you can specify whether you'd want life-sustaining treatments in certain conditions, like a terminal or irreversible condition. You'll need 2 witnesses, and they cannot be related to you, or you cannot, can't be your husband or wife. They cannot be your healthcare professional, cannot be a beneficiary in your will or your trust, nothing like that. So 2 witnesses and a notary. And then in Texas, like in our county where we live, there's actually a notary for our county, and it's free. So that's something you can do, is check with your county to see if they offer free notary services. If not, you can check with like in our town, the UPS store also offers notary services. I don't know how much those cost, if they're free or not. So you would just have to call a place like that, or even our local grocery store. Some of them do that. We have HEB here in Texas. So if they have, I think, an office center, they might be able to do that. So you can just call your local grocery store and ask, or actually, even a neighbor. You might have someone in your neighborhood that's actually a notary. So if you have a Facebook group for your neighborhood, make a post and see if there's one in your neighborhood, and then they might actually do that for free, or you can give them, if they do it for free, you can give them some money or whatever.
Whatever you feel comfortable with. And I know our neighbor, who's the secretary for the HOA, she's actually a notary, so that helps out a little bit. So, and then there's the medical power of attorney, or the MPOA. This document allows you to designate a trusted individual to make healthcare decisions on your behalf when you're no longer capable to do it because you might be incapacitated. It's critical to choose someone who understands your values, your wishes, because they'll be your voice.
Right. And while you don't need a lawyer to complete an MPOA, it's always a good idea to consult one if you have any questions. And again, this is one that has to be notarized with 2 witnesses. And actually, what I did learn in the doula class is, regardless even if it says, if there's no signature line or no witnesses, no witness line, our instructor told us always get everything notarized and have 2 witnesses. And again, those cannot be related to you or a beneficiary or your healthcare provider.
I know in a couple of our past episodes, people have told us this about notaries and witnesses because family drama always follows when somebody gets sick or about to die or does die, and we don't have our stuff notarized and witnessed. So do that. Another important document here in Texas is an out of hospital do not resuscitate order, or a DNR, OOH So this form instructs emergency medical personnel or healthcare professionals to forego any resuscitation attempts on you. It allows you to have natural death. It's worth noting that this order does not affect other emergency care, such as like comfort measures. So if you're suffering, they can help you with that, but they're not going to try to resuscitate you. It also requires 2 witnesses and to be notarized.
All right, so there's another document here which is not actually medical related, but I thought I would share it anyways. And it's called in Texas, it's the Statutory Durable Power of Attorney. And then this document is all about your financials and your property and the decisions. So again, not medical. It allows you to designate someone to handle tasks like managing, your bills, taxes, and all those kinds of things that you deal with day to day. And again, this document would also need to be notarized with 2 witnesses.
Yeah, I think people need to understand too, it can't be somebody who's blood relative or somebody that's going to benefit from your death. Another option listeners should be aware of is a POLST, POLST form, or a MOLST, MOLST form, which stands for Physician's Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment or Medical Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment, respectively. These are medical orders that are outlined they outline your preferences for treatment, like resuscitation, incubation, feeding tubes, all that stuff that when you're seriously ill that a doctor might perform on you. Not all states use this form, like Texas, but it's really worth looking at if you're in an area that allows it, and have that conversation with your doctor or your healthcare provider to see if that's something that you want to put forth. Like, I know I don't want to, if something happens to me, I don't want them to try to do mouth to mouth and that kind of stuff for a long time, because it does sometimes it does more harm than good.
Also, with the post and the most forms, that needs to be signed by your doctor. So that is one thing you'll need to talk with your doctor about. And also, I believe that's a form that really you have like 6 months or left to live to have that form. So definitely talk to your doctor about that if you find you're in that situation. All right.
And then make sure it's filed with your doctor in your hospital that you're going to go to.
Right. And then don't forget about the HIPAA release forms. So these forms allow your healthcare providers to share medical information with the individuals that you designate. It's an essential part of ensuring your advocates have access to the information they need to make these informed decisions. Now, again, I didn't see a mention of witnesses or a notary, but I would have that done anyway.
Just in case. And always CYA, right? Call your attorney.
Right, if you have a question, but that, you don't really need an attorney to do that.
I mean, but if
But
you have questions,
yes.
call. We also recommend keeping documents of your advanced care directive in a place where you have quick access, like a glove compartment, a home safe, sharing them with a chosen advocate or two. Make sure that you designate one main advocate and a couple backups. It's also a good idea to log who has copies. So when you update them, if for some reason your plans change, you can change those out quickly. And when you're traveling, you may also consider carrying an original signed form, a copy, or a special DNR ID necklace or bracelet. Now, when talking about the DNR ID necklace or bracelet that I just mentioned, most EMS workers and doctors are trained to look for those ID necklaces, bracelets, and one that we looked at actually had a QR code on the back that Honey's going to talk about here in a little bit that gives you exactly what they have on file for you, and they can easily see that you have that DNR.
Right, and also make sure that whoever your main advocate is and the backups, whoever they are, they need to know what your wishes are. So if you just give them the document and they tuck it away and put it away and don't even look at it, yes, they might find it later and open it and then read it, but then they might have questions, right? So just make sure you review it with your advocates so that they're well aware of your wishes.
Yeah, and having we mentioned a home safe. We recommend, and it's been recommended in a couple of sites that we've gone to, do not put it in a safety deposit box in a bank because you do not have that quick access if you don't have both keys, you're not on the signature card and all that other good stuff. So it's best to keep it in a location in your home in a lock safe, somewhere, or with your representatives, that they have quick access. And again, have that conversation with them.
Right. And then if you want to explore digital options for storing these types of documents, there are places that do that, such as there's one called My Directives, and that offers free storage for your plans. But not all hospitals have access to My Directives. So you can always ask your doctor or the hospital that is near you, what do they use? Because they might use something similar to My Directives that you could upload your documents to and have them stored digitally so that you just have them all the time. Another option is Medic Alert, which provides services they start about $35 a year, going up to $75 a year. And actually, I think that's really reasonably priced with any one of their memberships. That includes a bracelet a bracelet or a necklace, I believe. And then that's what Santiago was talking about with the QR code on the back. So that's an option too, for the Medic Alert.
Yeah, and that's the one I got mad at because I have a Samsung watch. She's got an Apple Watch, and they make a QR code for the Apple Watch, but not for the. But anyway, everybody's hating on different watches, but they're really, with that QR code, I think that's a cool idea. to have that. And if you do store it online and it has a password, make sure that your advocates know what the password is.
Oh, and one more thing about Medic Alert that I liked, depending on which level you get, you can also not just upload your medical directives, but you can put your will or your trust documents. At least that's what I understood by reading their plans on their website.
And I think those were the two upper plans, the $55 one and 75. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the 75 came with one other option. No, I can't remember what it is.
Really? It's the option for those who have dementia and they get lost. And
bad joke, my bad.
Yes. And so that would be great if you do have a family member that does have dementia or is starting to have onset dementia. It's scary.
That $20 is worth with their price.
Right.
So, so with families with small children who are ill, we also recommend a resource called Five Wishes. They have various versions for children or young adults to help families discuss these important topics together. If you want to use Five Wishes, you have to make sure that your state will accept it as a legal document. I would suggest working through the sample copies first, and then you can purchase the documents and complete them. And so we've got a sample document here. It's kind of hard to see. Five Wishes that we were looking through, and we really like this form. But they also have the online version that you can either buy a paper copy or an online version. With the online version, you can change it online as many times. Once you write this and fill it out and notarize it, it's pretty much one and done.
Right. And on their website, it has a list of all the states, and it is almost acceptable in all states. There's about 4 of them that it is acceptable, but with another form. But it will tell you on the website. And again, this type of the 5 wishes, it costs money. Now the samples I don't believe cost money. I think you could just print a sample off of their website, and then you can just use that as your starting point, because what this is it has questions that go a little bit more in depth than like the Texas directive would. It goes a little bit deeper on some of those questions, and that way your wishes are really known. You really make sure you get that across. And then if you have any questions, you can always consult an attorney about this type of document as well. And one other thing I want to still talk about 5 wishes is in my class that I took in the doula class. It's sad if your child is sick, and it's hard to talk about.
Well, because it's a sad subject, It was hard enough, when I was sick. Imagine if it was Shelby and Bob, This is, but this is a conversation. We don't call them easy conversations; they're hard freaking conversations to have, And this is an easy way to convey this conversation in a way that a younger person might understand.
Right. The one for the younger children it's like a coloring and a talk, that you can go alongside with your child, and then you can hear, what your child's wishes are. It doesn't mean you have to. I mean, you're the parent, you're the one who makes those ultimate decisions for your child. But maybe, sometimes, like in my class, the teacher did say, like, some of the kids, they do know, and they just don't know how to tell their parents or talk to them about it. So maybe by having a document like this can help you have that conversation.
We need to give the younger folks a little bit of credit when it comes to what their wishes are. With legal way, again, we're still the parents, but if they want something, if they don't want to be hooked up to a machine for the rest of their lives and stuff like that, that I think is a wish that I would grant any child. They said this is what I want or what I don't want.
Right. If they're, I think if they're terminal, yeah. I think yes. All right. So I keep talking about my doula class because I learned so much. My teacher, she's from Georgia, and in Georgia they have a document. It's called the Critical Conditions Planning Guide, and it's from the Emory Center for Ethics. Now, again, this is a document that's for Georgia, but it is a very detailed document that really helps get across some of these different scenarios that could happen to you. And so, like, while you're clear of mind, if you can go through some of these questions, it will help you in case you're put in that situation. And so I'm just going to read one question.
Well, the questions, they give you a scenario, do they not? So you start with a scenario, and it lists a bunch of hypothetical questions, and that's what we're going to take a look at real quick.
Right. I'm just going to read one of the scenarios, but they do have several. All right. Simone is 28 years old. She has a husband and 2 young children. As a result of a car accident, she has severe brain damage and she's in a state of permanent unconsciousness, sometimes called a persistent vegetative state. The doctors have told Simone's family that it's highly likely that she will never regain consciousness. Because she is young and otherwise healthy, Simone could live a number of years if she is given food and water through a tube, which is surgically placed in her stomach, and that's known as artificial hydration and nutrition. So it gives you a scenario like that, and then it has some discussion questions that you can go through with yourself, with your family. And so I'm just going to read a couple of them. But if you were in Simone's condition, would you want to be kept alive by receiving food and water through a tube? I mean, that I personally wouldn't. But that's a choice. That's a discussion to have.
I had to do it. I wasn't brain dead, but
Right. Yours wasn't terminal, although it could have been. It could have been. Right. But yeah, you're right. But in this scenario,
she's unconscious, and we don't know if she's going to wake up. Yeah.
Right. And then another question it says is, would you want to receive fluids through a vein but not want to receive food through a stomach tube? Why or why not? So anyhow, that's what you get when you go to get this critical conditions planning guide. Again, it's very thorough. This doesn't cost any money. You just go to their website, you can get the document, and I would really encourage you to go through these questions. And then after you go through the scenarios, so like the first part of this document is actually having, like, how do you have a conversation with your family? Has a little bit about that. The second part is all the different scenarios. And of course, they're not all the scenarios that could be there, but they have quite a few of them. And then the next part after that is where you actually fill in the questions, like you answer, like, in making decisions about my medical care, the following reflect my views. And then you check your responses. I want to prolong my life by any means possible. Yes, no, undecided. So anyhow, it goes on and on with more of these types of questions. But I really thought it was a huge value to share that with you because this document is really great. I'm so glad my teacher shared it.
I just think it's important that this is a driver, both this and the wishes form is really a driver for that hard discussion. It's you were just a second ago tearing up just thinking about it, and I think this is critical. It's a critical tool for your toolkit, and having it in there and just these little scenarios really it gets those higher thoughts thinking. It gets the brain juices flowing. So everything that she told you is so important. So remember, requirements for advanced directives vary by state. Okay. For those listeners outside of Texas, we'll include a link from the AARP. We're too young to be a part of the AARP.
Dave, anyone can be in AARP nowadays. You don't have to be.
I know. I'm just saying. But that list from AARP has a link for each state. You click on that, And it tells you what your state requirements are. And it's so important to understand what those requirements are, when you're living there. And then if you decide to move, what changes so you can update your stuff.
Right. So one other thing I should mention too, on any of these documents, even though you go through the whole process of, doing all the things and getting it witnessed and notarized, if you change your mind tomorrow, that's fine. You just tear up those documents and do a new one. So this is not something that's like set in stone, and you can always revisit this annually. I mean, that's what a lot of people recommend, or anytime, you have a significant life change.
Yeah. And, or you move, significant life change. If you move, you do something like that, you never know.
Right.
And then making sure you have those copies with you when you need them. The answer lies in planning, communicating, and educating not only yourself, but your loved ones on what you want. By completing your advanced care directives, choose the right advocates, make sure they know what you want, and revisit your plans annually so you can take care of your health journey and provide peace of mind, not only to yourself, but your loved ones, because that's really who we're planning for, is our loved ones, to make their life a little bit easier. Also note that any of these documents, like Honey said, they can be changed at any time. You just get them re-notarized with those 2 witnesses, destroy the old forms, update your log of when you updated them, who has them, all that good stuff, and then you're good to go. But no, you remember, we said this time and time again because it's so important. Search your state, make sure that you complete the necessary documents with witnesses and a notary that comply to your state laws.
Right. And again, like knowing all of this, where if I reflect back where we started, when I said I thought an attorney had to fill out all of these documents, but again, if your state provides them, you can get them. So there's really no reason not to have these documents. They are super important. It helps people know what you want, and in case an emergency happens. All right. So
yeah, we say that it's so important to have it, but yet only 30% of America has a will right now, which is the base document, and then these supplement the will, on the front side of your death. It's a shame that more people haven't done this yet, and I don't know.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're
here.
We're
sharing information, and we hope that this encourages you to click that link to find your state and find those documents. And of course, see if your state maybe has lawyers that are low cost if you need help that way, or even actually visit one of your colleges in the area that they might have a program for lawyers that they might offer pro bono work for the students. So that's another idea.
That's a great idea, huh?
Before we wrap up, we're going to revisit the essential question: what steps can we take to ensure that our healthcare decisions are honored, especially during critical moments when we may not be able to make them ourselves?
Thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions or need additional resources, check out the links below in our show notes. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a review, please. And share this episode with someone who might find it helpful. Maybe give them this before you talk to them. Maybe they'll listen and understand a little bit more.
All right. Well, until next time, remember, every chapter you write today shapes your legacy tomorrow. Thank you for joining us at Thoughtful Planning. And just like the vibrant hues of a setting sun, we're wrapping up another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Every shared story and insight is a step closer to turning uncertainty into celebrations of preparedness.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, remember that every surprise that comes our way is an opportunity to grow, adapt, and learn. Stay tuned for more stories, expert insight, and of course, a touch of wit in our next episode.
We're not just co-hosts, we're fellow travelers on this journey. For more information on additional resources, which will help you take the next step in planning, look for the link in the show notes for our membership. Join us next time for another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Until then, keep living, laughing, and loving every moment.